If you've been following my custom guitar build project, you know that I set out to see if I could build my own Custom Shop Telecaster Style guitar that might just equal the Fender Custom Shop guitars I've got here in the studio, but at a much lower cost and produced using fairly basic tools. Now, if you haven't watched this series, then take some time out and follow me through the build process from choosing the parts in video 1 onto painting and relicking, and finally through to video 9, the final build and setup. Hello viewer, my name's Stu. Please do check out the rest of my channel as it covers my return back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. And if you enjoy the content, please do think about subscribing, hit the bell for notifications, like, share and do comment below. And as always, a big thank you for those who take the time to do that and take the time to be here. So in part 10A of this video series, I'm going to be answering the questions that I left off on video 9, and that was number 1, how does my custom built guitar project compare with my Fender Telecasters, both Custom Shop relics and the modern professional series Fender? Number 2, was it really worth all the work that went into it? Would I do this again? And would I recommend this approach to anybody else? Number 3, what did it really cost me? Could I have made this cheaper and still end up with the same result? Or is it actually more cost effective to just simply purchase a ready-made guitar, and especially when there are so many interest-free deals payable over a lengthy period of time? And finally, will I keep this Bluebird guitar, or will I alter or change anything now that it's finished? Well, in part 10B, the next video, I'm going to answer all the questions and comments I received over the months of the build project, and for those interested in building or modifying a guitar, you may find that informative. Okay, the big questions from my perspective. Number 1, how does my custom built Bluebird guitar project compare with my Fender built Telecasters? Well, first, in regard to looks. Well, in my opinion, viewing the Relic Custom Shop guitars side by side with my Relic Bluebird, apart from the giveaway headstock shape and logo, it really does sit perfectly alongside my Fender Telecasters. It does look like something out of the Fender Custom Shop department. Now, in regard to the overall fit and finish, is my metallic spray job as good as my Fender Custom Shop 61 with its metallic Sherwood green finish? And the answer to that is no. The Fender exhibits a better finish. However, I wasn't aiming for a flawless finish. I was looking to achieve a more contaminated look, although I would have liked a slightly better and more even silver particle finish. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get a perfect finish with spray tins. You can, but you can just as easily dislodge those silver particles when using nitrocellulose paints, since they never fully cure and each layer melts into the other. Something to watch out for if you're spraying metallic. However, all that aside, all in all, it really does look quite well, and it does have a fairly tough finish. Now, in regard to the neck and headstock finish, as far as looks go, the roasted flame maple of the Bluebird looks very nice, and certainly a bit more flashy than the Fender guitars, which look quite plain by comparison. The Indian rosewood fingerboard compares in quality with my 61 Fender Telecaster. The frets are a little thinner than I would have liked, but still they're very nicely done. Now, the logo transfers by Rothko and Frost are very good and are much quicker and easier than trying to do this yourself with printer paper. It looks really well by comparison with the Fender logo transfers. Looking at the parts that I've used, well, the go-to vintage aged tuners, they really do look the part. I'm not sure about the stepped format. The two top strings, the B and the E, appear to rest on the tuning peg ferrules. Now, this hasn't caused me any problems, but I would question the manufacturer's advertised suitability for the thickness of a Fender style headstock. The 7.5 radius pre-cut slotted bone nut by Hosco is nicely done. Now, in regard to the body fittings, everything I've used, and you can see a detailed list in video 4, I recommend the all parts electro socket over the vintage original Fender jack socket plate, as the vintage part really needs a special Fender tool to fit it. Now, I had to age some of the parts that I wasn't able to purchase direct from a supplier and use both the vinegar and the acid treatment, which worked well in most cases, although the hard chrome is the difficult one to get a convincing aged finish on. The go-to brass saddles do have a different look to the classic Fender barrel saddles and don't quite align so perfectly. Nothing of any concern. Most importantly, as they are compensated saddles, they work well, although I have to say my non-compensated setup on the two Custom Shop models, actually they intonate perfectly as well. Now, weight-wise, the Bluebird comes in at 3.5 kilograms, while the Telecaster 61 is 3.6 kilograms. The Telecaster 52 with an ash body is 3.3 kilograms, and the Professional, which is also an ash body, is 3.2 kilograms. All in all, looks-wise, apart from the headstock design that I've used, the Bluebird looks just as good as the Fenders, and some may say the neck and headstock on the Bluebird is much prettier than the Fenders, but that's purely a cosmetic thing. When it comes to how they actually sound, here's a quick side-by-side chord and note tone test from each guitar. I'll be slightly rolling back the tone a little on each guitar where needed, because Telecasters are bright sounding instruments. This is not about comparing pickups, it's really just to show that my project Bluebird guitar, it does sound like a Telecaster. So the vitally important point, what about the feel? How does it compare picking up each guitar and running my hand up and down the neck? Well, each guitar has its own feel. The Fender 52 has a thick neck profile, while the 61 has a classic early 60s slimmer feel. The Professional is based on a cross between modern and vintage, and my project Bluebird, well, it's somewhere in between all of those. Now, all four guitars feel very nice under the hand. The Bluebird guitar, again, sits well in between the two Fender Custom Shops with the relic necks. And again, I did sand down the Bluebird neck to get an even more comfortable playing feel. And without doubt, it easily feels as good, if not slightly better, than the custom shops. So that takes me to number 2. Was it really worth all the work that went into it? Would I do this again? Would I recommend this to anybody else? Well, as outlined in video 1, everyone has their own personal reasons for building their own guitar, and I went through a number of those popular reasons in that first video, so I'm not going to repeat all that again. Was it worth it for me? Yes, I enjoyed building something myself, just the way I wanted to do things, and it turned out looking well, and it sounds good as well. Would I build another? Perhaps a Stratocaster this time? Well, maybe, perhaps. I'm certainly not in a hurry to do so, as I want to concentrate on my music compositions and recording. Would I recommend anybody else to do this? Well, of course, time building a partscaster style guitar is solely based on the complexity of the build path chosen, such as special alterations and paint finish. A simpler paint or varnish job with fast drying products would have made the build project move along much quicker. Quicker still, there is the option to purchase a pre-painted body and neck. What I would say is, the first job is making sure you order all the right parts that you need for whatever path you choose for your project. If it's a labour of love and you have a range of skills and tools available, then your options are whatever direction you choose. If you have limited skills, tools and budget, then choose more carefully. So that brings me to my last point, number 3. What did it really cost me? Could have I made this cheaper and still end up with the same result? Or is it actually more cost effective to just simply go and purchase a guitar? As I say, especially as I've mentioned, where there are so many deals available. So first off, I'm a very busy chap with many commitments pretty much every day of the week, and yet I found it relatively easy to fit this project into my schedule. But that's me. I'm used to doing 20 things at once, and not everybody operates like that. So I would say it's probably very doable for most folks because you don't need to do it all at once. And you can, of course, just do things a bit at a time as time and budget permits. So what did it really cost? Well, first of all, while some deliveries were free, I did have extra delivery costs due to having to use different suppliers and also having to reorder because I underestimated my paint materials. So delivery charges can soon rack up if you're not careful. The roasted alder body and roasted flame maple neck was around £537. Now, this is above the standard pricing as I asked for roasted and flame maple woods along with a couple more changes to the fretboard and additions to the headstock at the time of purchase. The base cost would have been around £400, and incidentally maple necks are cheaper, so I could easily have saved nearly £150 and still receive a high quality product, although I would have had to have cut a design into the unfinished headstock myself. For them to cut the headstock design, that cost me £20. And for me, that was really worth it. The pickups were next in regard to the higher costs. I got a new set of Fender Custom Shop Texas Specials for £142. Now, again, you can get less expensive pickups or, of course, second-hand products, but ultimately, this is an area that will have a direct effect on your guitar's tone. The next financial outlay for me and what I was doing with this project was the finishing materials: sandpaper, sealer, primer, metallic paint, amber lacquer, clear coat lacquers, Danish oil, cutting compound, and conductive paint. This was around about £205. Now you can definitely spend a lot less. I was doing various effects to get what I was looking for, which is the reason for the cost, although spray cans are not really an economical way to paint a complete project. While I could have saved money on various accessories, there are some that should not be skimped on, and I would say it's important to have a solid bridge plate with high quality bridge saddles, a good quality set of tuning pegs, and a good quality nut. Now, in regard to using budget electrical components up against higher quality parts, what I would say is this: the difference in cost, considering what needs to be spent on everything else, it really just is not worth skimping on this. You'll not make that many savings. So for all my hardware and electrical parts minus the pickups, it came to around about £117.20. Now the headstock transfers, they were £25.98, and again I say it was just not worth messing around with a desktop printer and speciality papers. Again, you're saving only pennies by doing it that way, and the results I'm not sure about. I also picked up a blue coloured Fender Custom Shop style guitar case, brand new, at a discounted price of £141. Yes, not needed, but a nice little touch to finish the project. So my total cost for this particular build, not including the case, was approximately £1,027.18. If I had not chosen the roasted alder and flamed roasted maple, opted for a more simple finish and purchased cheaper, less important accessories such as the genuine Fender neck body chrome backplate, which was $18.98, and I could have just got a copy for £5. So still keeping all the high quality accessories important to the overall tone of the guitar, the total cost could have been around about £850. And finally, my time. Was it worth it? I'm answering this from a financial perspective and not from a personal hobby time perspective. If I was still a busy professional, the answer would be no. This guitar project would not be worth my time, as it would have been more cost effective just to get someone to build my dream guitar for me. I'm not sure how many hours this took me. It certainly took around 4 to 5 hours just to find out all the parts that I needed. If I were to collect all the hours together, and perhaps I would say 2 weeks solid, possibly more. So when you consider the price of a custom shop Fender Relic model, parts aside, the hourly rate for the custom shop build team and the running costs of the company, I would say they are actually well priced, regardless of whether you think they're worth it or not. If you want a hands-on, built and finished guitar, the costs are very much in the time it takes for a skilled individual to complete the product. So all in all, it's not an exact comparison. My custom build Bluebird fares very well with the Fender Custom Shop tellies that I've got here. In the next video, 10B, I will be answering various questions received over the period of the project build, and for those thinking about building or modding a guitar, you should find that information helpful. So please do think about subscribing, hit the bell to get notifications, like and share. As always, it really does help the channel out. As for me, I'm back to working on my own music projects. So do check out my channel playlist, which covers my journey back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. Lots of equipment reviews as I seek out the gear that I use in my recording. So whether you're a newcomer, an ongoing player, or like me, an old hand returning to guitar playing, I always take the time to engage with folks who take the time to comment. So until next time, the journey continues. Do take care.